I had just given birth to his son when my husband walked into my delivery room holding another pregnant woman's hand. Not a nurse, not his mother, his mistress, and she was 7 months pregnant. "This is Claire," Dae-hyun said, like we were meeting at a coffee shop. "She's carrying my real heir." I looked down at the newborn in my arms, my son, his blood, and my husband just called him replaceable. If your husband brought his pregnant mistress into your delivery room, would you forgive him or destroy him? Comment forgive or destroy. But here's what Dae-hyun didn't know. I'd been waiting for this moment for 3 months. Let me back up. My name is Zara. I'm 28. I worked as a waitress at a Korean barbecue restaurant in Atlanta when I met Dae-hyun Kang. He walked in wearing a suit that cost more than my car. Dark eyes, dangerous smile. I didn't know he ran one of the largest underground operations in the South. I just knew he tipped well and always sat in my section. 6 months later, we were married. His family hated it. A black waitress marrying the heir to the Kang Empire? But Dae-hyun didn't care. Or so I thought. The pregnancy should have brought us closer. Instead, he disappeared. Late nights, locked phones, lies that didn't even try to sound real. I found the receipts first. Hotel rooms charged to our shared credit card. Jewelry I never received. Dinner reservations for 2 at restaurants we'd never been to together. Then I found her Instagram. Claire. Blonde, smiling, pregnant, posting photos in my husband's car, wearing a bracelet I'd seen on our bank statement. Standing in front of restaurants I recognized from those receipts. She tagged herself at places Dae-hyun told me were business meetings. That's when I stopped crying and started planning. I went to our family doctor the next day. "Mrs. Kang, Dr. Lim said carefully, I can't discuss other patients." "Then don't discuss," I said. "Just run a paternity test when the time comes. Mine and hers." He hesitated. I placed an envelope on his desk. It contained the legal paperwork for my father's hospital board and my signed consent forms. His eyes widened when he saw the signature at the bottom. He nodded. I walked out of that office with a plan. Dae-hyun thought I was weak because I was pregnant. He had no idea what I was building. I gave birth on a Tuesday. 12 hours of labor. No husband, no calls, no messages. The nurses kept asking if someone was coming. I told them no. When they finally placed my son in my arms, I cried. Not from pain, not from loneliness, because he looked exactly like Dae-hyun. Same dark hair, same sharp features, same intense eyes, even as a newborn. This baby was undeniably his, and that was exactly what I needed. An hour later, Dr. Lim walked in. He handed me a sealed envelope without a word. I opened it with shaking hands. The results were clear. My son, 99.9% match to Dae-hyun Kang. Claire's baby, no genetic match. I read it 3 times to make sure I understood. Then I placed it on my bedside table and waited, because I knew Dae-hyun. I knew his arrogance, his need to control everything, his belief that he was untouchable. And I knew he'd come, not to see his son, but to replace us. The door opened 30 minutes later, and there he was. 2 of his men stood outside, blocking the hallway like this was his building. Nurses went silent when he entered. They'd seen him before. They knew who he was. Dae-hyun walked in with Claire beside him. She had one hand on her belly, the other gripping his arm like she owned him. "Zara," he said flatly, "we need to talk." I stared at him. "You brought your mistress to my delivery room?" "Don't be dramatic. You know how this works. My family needs a proper heir. Claire comes from a good Korean family. Her bloodline matters." I felt the nurse behind me stiffen. "I decide who carries my name," he said coldly. "Not you. Not that child." Claire smiled. Sweet, poisonous. "I'm sorry this is hard for you," she whispered. "But Dae-hyun and I, we're building something real." My stitches pulled when I shifted. My hands were shaking around my son's blanket. I was still bleeding, still weak, still trying to breathe, and he had brought another woman to replace me. I looked at the envelope on my bedside table, the one Dr. Lim had delivered, the one that would destroy everything Dae-hyun thought he'd built. "Before you make any announcements," I said quietly, "you should read what's in that envelope." Dae-hyun laughed. Actually laughed. "What is this, a goodbye letter? A plea for me to stay?" "Open it." He grabbed the envelope and ripped it open with the confidence of a man who'd never been challenged. His eyes scanned the page. Once, twice. I watched his expression change. Confusion, disbelief. Then he crumpled the paper in his fist. "This is fake," he said, but his voice cracked. It's from your family's hospital, I said calmly. Dr. Lim signed it himself. Claire's smile faded. What does it say? Nothing, Dae-hyun snapped. She's trying to manipulate us. But I saw the fear in his eyes. He knew the truth. He just couldn't accept it yet. I pressed the call button beside my bed. Dae-hyun frowned. What are you doing? Getting witnesses, I said. The door opened. Dr. Lim walked in, but he wasn't alone. Dae-hyun's mother followed behind him, and a lawyer in a black suit waited in the doorway. The game had just changed. Mrs. Kang looked at her son, then at Claire, then at me. Her face was unreadable, cold, controlled. What is this? She demanded. A paternity test, I said calmly. For what? Dae-hyun's voice cracked. Dr. Lim cleared his throat. Mr. Kang, 2 tests were requested. One by Mrs. Zara Kang 3 months ago, one by your mother 2 weeks ago. Dae-hyun froze. Mother? Mrs. Kang's face was stone. I'm not a fool. I had Claire tested too. Claire went pale. That's illegal. You can't test someone without their permission. I can when the hospital's board chairman is the patient's father, I interrupted. Dae-hyun stared at me. Your father? My father owns 40% of this hospital, I said. Did you think I was just some waitress with no family, no connections, no power? His mother's eyes narrowed. Not in anger, in respect. She'd underestimated me too, but unlike her son, she was smart enough to recognize power when she saw it. Dae-hyun turned to his mother and made his final mistake. You think I believe a paper from a hospital her father owns? Dae-hyun snapped. She bought this. She paid someone to fake the results. Mrs. Kang didn't flinch. No, she said coldly. I ordered the second test myself. Through our family lawyer. Different lab, different doctors, same results. She pulled another envelope from her purse and handed it to him. Dae-hyun opened it with shaking hands. I watched his face change, confidence to confusion, confusion to horror. His hands trembled as he read. Claire grabbed his arm. What does it say? Read it out loud, his mother commanded. Dae-hyun's voice was barely a whisper. The child carried by Claire Thompson shows no genetic match to Kang Dae-hyun. The room went silent. Claire gasped. That's a lie. That's impossible. Keep reading, Mrs. Kang said. Dae-hyun swallowed hard. The child born to Zara Kang shows a 99.9% match to Kang Dae-hyun. His mother looked at the baby in my arms, then at Claire, then back at her son. Get her out, she said. Claire grabbed Dae-hyun's arm desperately. Baby, this is a mistake. They're lying. Your mother hates me. She's trying to... Whose is it? Dae-hyun's voice was dead. What? Whose child are you carrying? Claire's lips trembled. Yours. It's yours, I swear. The test doesn't lie, Mrs. Kang cut in. Who is the father? Claire looked at me, then at Mrs. Kang, then at the lawyer in the doorway. She knew she was trapped. I don't have to answer that, she whispered. Then leave, Dae-hyun said. It was the first time I'd heard him sound broken. Claire's eyes filled with tears, real ones, I think. You promised me, she said. You said we'd be together, You said you'd leave her. Get out, Mrs. Kang repeated. Claire looked at Dae-hyun one last time. He didn't look back. She ran, heels clicking down the hospital hallway like gunshots. The door closed behind her, and Dae-hyun stood frozen in the middle of my delivery room, holding 2 pieces of paper that had just destroyed his entire life. Dae-hyun stood there, silent, staring at the papers in his hands like they were written in a language he didn't understand. I don't understand, he finally whispered. How did I afford the test? I smiled. I told you. My father owns this hospital. You said you were a waitress. I was. I also have a trust fund that makes your family look middle class. His mother laughed, sharp and bitter. It was the first time I'd ever heard her laugh. My parents didn't approve of you, I continued. They said you were dangerous, that you'd use me and throw me away. But I loved you anyway. So I worked at that restaurant to prove I wasn't just some rich girl playing pretend. I wanted you to choose me, not my money, not my name, not my connections, just me. I looked down at my son. But you never did. Dae-hyun opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out, because he was starting to understand what he'd really lost. Not just a wife, not just a son, but the only woman who'd ever loved him for who he was, not what he controlled. Dae-hyun grabbed the side rail of my hospital bed like the floor had disappeared under him. His knuckles went white. There's more, his mother said. She pulled out her phone and showed him something. I couldn't see the screen, but I saw his face, pure devastation. The family trust has an inheritance clause, Mrs. Kang said. Any heir who publicly humiliates his wife and legitimate child loses his position as head of the family. Dae-hyun looked up. What? You brought your mistress into your wife's delivery room, she said. You called her baby your real heir. You rejected your legitimate son, in front of hospital staff, in front of witnesses. She paused. In front of cameras. Cameras? His voice broke. Hospital security footage, the lawyer said from the doorway. Every word, every action, recorded. Dae-hyun stared at me. For the first time since I'd met him, Dae-hyun Kang had no plan. No power move, no way out, no control. You didn't care, I said quietly, and now you've lost everything. If you're team wife, comment team Zara. Let me hold him, Dae-hyun whispered. Please, let me hold my son. I pulled the baby closer to my chest. No. Zara, please. You walked in here with another woman, I said. You told me my son didn't matter. You called him replaceable. You said she was carrying your real heir. I was wrong. I was so wrong. You were cruel. Tears ran down his face. The great Dae-hyun Kang, the man who made grown men nervous, the man who controlled half the underground operations in the South, crying in a hospital room. I'll fix this, he said desperately. I'll leave Claire. I'll prove to you that I love you. I'll do anything. You can't fix this, I interrupted, because I don't want you anymore. His mother stepped forward. The divorce papers are being drafted, she said. You'll sign them. You'll give her full custody. You'll relinquish your parental rights. Mother, you can't. I can. And I am. You're no longer fit to lead this family. She looked at me, then at her grandson. But he is. I left that hospital 3 days later. My father's security team walked me out. 6 men in black suits surrounding me and my son like we were royalty. Because to my family, we were. Dae-hyun stood in the parking lot watching. His men were gone. His mother had dismissed them. He looked smaller somehow, like someone had taken all the air out of him. He tried to speak when I walked past. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. My father opened the car door for me. My mother took my bags, and we drove away from the Kang Empire forever. Claire's baby? She refused to name the father. But it didn't matter. Dae-hyun had destroyed his family for a woman who had never been honest with him either. 6 months later, my lawyer called. Dae-hyun was asking for visitation rights. She laughed and hung up. He'd signed them away in the divorce settlement, part of the deal to avoid criminal charges. Turns out he'd been stealing from his own family's business to fund his affair with Claire. His mother never forgave him. Last I heard, Dae-hyun is working mid-level management at a company his cousin owns. No empire, no power, no control, no heir. The Kang family disowned him completely. His mother made his younger brother the new head of the family. Dae-hyun lost everything the day he walked into my delivery room with Claire. Meanwhile, I raised my son in the home I bought with my own money. A house in the suburbs with a backyard. Nothing like the Kang mansion. But it's mine. My son has my last name now, not Kang. He'll never know the man who tried to replace him before he was even born. And every time I look at him, I remember that moment. The moment in the delivery room when I could have begged Dae-hyun to stay. When I could have cried and pleaded and made myself smaller. But I didn't. I chose myself. I chose my son. I chose the truth over the lie. And I became the woman who destroyed a mafia boss with a single envelope. That's the woman my son will know. Not the broken wife, the powerful one. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd forgiven him, given him another chance, kept the family together for my son's sake. I tell them the truth. No, because Dae-hyun didn't bring Claire to that delivery room by accident. He brought her to humiliate me. To break me, to make me feel worthless. He wanted me to know I'd been replaced, that I never mattered. But what he didn't know was that I'd spent 3 months preparing for that exact moment. Learning the truth, gathering evidence, building my exit strategy. He thought I was weak because I was in a hospital bed. He thought I was powerless because I'd just given birth. He thought he could walk in with another woman and I'd just accept it. He was wrong. He came to my delivery room to erase me. Instead, he watched his entire bloodline choose me, and now he lives with that every single day. While I live free, my son will grow up knowing his mother chose dignity over desperation, power over pain, truth over lies. That's the legacy I'm building. Drop your city below if betrayal ever made you colder, wiser, and stronger.